Welcome to Get Rich Education. I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Learn about Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency compared with investing in real estate. How much is your property worth in Bitcoin? Then, one of the most important questions in real estate is, should I pay more for a fully renovated property with a tenant already in it, or should I try to find a distressed deal, fix it up, and do the tenant management all by myself? It's the pros and cons of turnkey real estate versus do-it-yourself real estate, today on Get Rich Education. The people that our listeners can't stop talking about are Ridge Lending Group and MLS 42056. They've provided you with more loans than anyone. It's where I got my last few loans, and they finance single-family income property up to fourplexes. They're the number one lender for both beginners and veterans. Start your pre-qualification, chat with President Chaley Ridge personally, and you'll end up with your custom plan for expanding your cash flowing portfolio. Start at ridgelendinggroup.com.
You're listening to the show that has created more financial freedom than nearly any show in the world. This is Get Rich Education.
Welcome to GRE, from Rochester, New York to Rochester, Minnesota, and across 188 nations worldwide. I'm Keith Weinhold. This is Get Rich Education, and this is a real estate investing show. This might be the only time I ever discuss cryptocurrency here. We'll see. Now, in the past, I've compared real estate with stocks, gold, and some other asset types, because when you understand your options outside of real estate, then you can better understand the pros and cons of being a direct real estate investor yourself. How will you know how good that is unless you know what else is out there? There still seems to be some palpable old line intransigence to crypto. I don't feel that way. It exists, and it is worth talking about for at least one segment of a show here. So please keep in mind, though, that I am not the crypto expert. So this is cryptocurrency through my eyes. People look to me for information on really three main things: real estate investing, real estate economics, and wealth mindset. So what is cryptocurrency even? It is a global digital currency and the software that supports it. Crypto is traded over the internet. I think that a cryptocurrency advocate would tell you that it is money for the digital age. It leverages technology in such a way that it's able to integrate pretty seamlessly into this digital ecosystem that we've all been living in largely for 25 years now. Since crypto is native to the internet, this allows it to work in conjunction with other digital technologies. It is a square peg in a square hole rather than money as we know it today, which is more of a round peg in a square hole, developed and built for the analog age. So really, that's crypto's advantage. And transactions are stored on what is called the blockchain. And the blockchain is really just a ledger. It's a transparent ledger of all crypto transactions. Bitcoin is the leading cryptocurrency. So let's really focus on Bitcoin. In 2017, the value of one Bitcoin shot up from about $1,000 and soared up to $20,000 per Bitcoin, and then the price cratered to about $4,000. Now, over the past few weeks, the price has been bouncing between $16K and $20K. It's been rather volatile lately, but Bitcoin is way up this year. Ethereum and other cryptocurrency prices are way up too. And its uniqueness, crypto's uniqueness, is that it involves no governments and no banks. It functions peer-to-peer. Yes, banks and governments are totally cut out of the system. Some fear that governments are going to eventually try to shut it down and that it could consequently devalue cryptocurrency. You see, governments like to track your spending. That way they can tax your spending. One benefit of cryptocurrency is its potential to help the unbanked. On a global scale, more people have access to the internet than they have to banks. So crypto could help poorer people. Now, if you wanted to buy Bitcoin today, I do have to give a little credit to the system here. One of the best known crypto trading platforms, it's called Coinbase. There is an authentication process there that's fairly rigorous. They do make sure that you're a real human being before you can buy. And if you want to buy Bitcoin on Coinbase, you'll need to pay a 1.5% fee. So you're paying $150 to buy $10,000 worth of Bitcoin. And when you buy it, they typically put a hold of a few days on the transaction until it goes through to help authenticate it and help stabilize prices. There's also a $25,000 daily buying limit on Coinbase. So if you really want to buy a substantial amount, this can take some time between the holds and the buy limit. Now, there are some ways to get around both that 1.5% fee and the 25K daily buy limit. But you can buy Bitcoin through more places now than you could just a year ago. Popular services like PayPal and Robinhood have more recently allowed you to do this. Now, often it's not a good idea to leave your purchased Bitcoin sitting out on an exchange like Coinbase Pro. There is still a perceived threat that hackers might steal it from you. Well, a safe way to securely store your crypto to keep it from being stolen is on what is called a cold wallet. Now, what is a cold wallet? It is a physical device. It looks like a thumb drive, and it's about 2 to 3 times the size of a thumb drive. That's where you store your crypto offline. So this cold wallet, this big thumb drive looking thing, that is plugged into a USB port on the side of your computer, and then you pull it off there for safe storage. So you can store the cold wallet then in a safe place, which is kind of interesting because now what you've just done is you've taken a digital currency and you've stored it on something physical again when you do that. Now, although popular crypto like Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin, though they're called cryptocurrencies, they're still not accepted as currency in all that many places, although that is changing and there is more acceptance. Look, one reason that people have faith in their dollar, euro, peso, yen, renminbi, pound, and other major world currencies is because their value is relatively stable year after year. But Bitcoin and other crypto as a currency, it's going to need more stable pricing to get more serious consideration as a currency. Look, if it gets halved in value last year and then it doubles in value this year, well, then how would you know how much purchasing power that you even have? Think about it this way. We're so used to valuing everything in dollars, whether it's real estate or Apple stock or even Bitcoin itself. Let's say that you have a fourplex building and it was worth the same amount last year as it is this year, denominated in dollars. We'll say it was worth $500K last year and it's $500K this year. But over that same timeline, how would you feel if the value of your fourplex building fell from 100 Bitcoins down to 50 Bitcoins in just 1 year? Well, that's what could happen if Bitcoin were the currency right now. It's that volatile. And then how would you change rents if your tenants are paying you in Bitcoin and the value of 1 Bitcoin drops by half in just a year? And then what's your building's net operating income now? Where's the belief system in that? Where's the faith in that? So let's think about the 3 main functions of money, which are a little different than currency. The 3 main functions of money are a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. I discussed that here a couple years ago. Well, and then stable pricing, that's one element of faith in obtaining widespread currency acceptance. Since Nixon removed the dollar from the gold standard in 1971, dollars have largely operated on a mere belief system. Cryptocurrency seems to operate largely on a similar belief system. It operates on faith, similar to how dollars do. A dollar is a brand. Understand that the dollar has actually become part of the American brand. Well, Bitcoin is a brand. It's building its brand, but it has a really short history and a checkered history. You might know part of the story. Satoshi Nakamoto is presumed to be a pseudonym for the person or people who designed the original Bitcoin protocol in 2008 and launched this network in 2009. The value of the first Bitcoin transactions were negotiated by people on a Bitcoin forum, with one notable transaction of 10,000 Bitcoins used to indirectly purchase 2 pizzas delivered by Papa John's. That took place in Jacksonville, Florida. Well, does the fact that that happened just 10, 12 years ago, does that shake your faith in Bitcoin's brand, or does it not? Well, more recently, in 2014, the world's largest Bitcoin exchange, called Mt. Gox, declared bankruptcy. And by the way, do you know what Mt. Gox stands for? Those letters, MTGOX, the namesake of it, is the fantasy-based card game Magic the Gathering Online Exchange. That's what it stands for. Geez, are you kidding me? This is just 6 or 7 years ago. The company Mt. Gox said it lost almost $500 million worth of their customers' Bitcoins, likely due to theft. And this was about 750,000 Bitcoins, which was about 7% of all the Bitcoins in existence at that time. More recently, in 2018, Bitcoin Gold and a couple other cryptocurrencies, they were hit by a successful hacking attack by an unknown actor, and exchanges lost about $18 million. Later in 2018, Korean exchange CoinRail was hacked, losing $37 million worth of crypto, and fear surrounding that hack was blamed for a $42 billion cryptocurrency market sell-off. So see, it's not just the loss of the crypto in the hack, it's the resulting fear in the crypto community that creates this subsequent sell-off and then a loss in valuation. In July of 2018, the exchange Bancor had $23.5 million in cryptocurrency stolen. So these are some fairly recent hacks. So it's not just the unstable value that creates problems for crypto's acceptance as a stable currency, it is this theft. Now, the US taxing authority, the IRS, yes, they do tax crypto. The reason that buying and selling crypto is taxable is because the IRS identifies crypto as property and not currency. So tax rules that apply to property transactions, therefore, apply to crypto. But we're not talking about the more advantageous real estate tax rules here when I say property. We're talking about the tax rules that apply to things like selling collectible coins or vintage cars that can appreciate in value. That's what applies to Bitcoin and Ethereum and other cryptocurrencies. Let's look at some more crypto pros and cons here. The pros, the pluses, are generational. Young people grew up in an electronic world, and they might still value items in the physical world, but they don't put the same importance on physical items. It's international. In an increasingly global world, why should each individual nation have its own currency? And is that moving toward being outdated? It was about 20 years ago when Europe launched the euro currency. By the way, gold is an international money, and it's still in use, and gold has had value for millennia. But Bitcoin is international. Authentication. Major crypto exchanges have stepped up in this department. Is it enough to prevent hacks? I don't really know. Maybe some people feel that way until another hack happens. I think one increasing pro of cryptocurrency is faith. With more institutions supporting what I'll call a Bitcoin economy, this provides it with more faith. And watching this over time is really important. Let's talk about some of the cons, the minuses of crypto. It is that security, tales of hackers stealing your Bitcoin off exchanges, lingers. The cons is that it's really not even accepted as a currency in most places. It is volatile. It has a short history. It's only been around about 12 years. A big con is the government. If crypto gets too popular, some fear that, the government and central banks are going to get involved and shut it down. The IRS already gives it that unfavorable tax treatment like I described. What about an income stream? Crypto paying you an income stream has largely not existed. That's a big one, but this could be changing with the launch of platforms like BlockFi. What about the bottom? Where's the bottom? With Bitcoin, I think it's easy to make the case that the bottom is that it falls to zero. With real estate, even if it fell 20%, that would be huge, and that's not common. It is rare just for real estate to fall down that 20%, down to 80% of its value. Even if a property were uninsured somehow and it burned all the way down to the ground, you would still own the land underneath it. I think another con of crypto is you've got to think about the word competition. Are Russia and China developing their own digital currency? Already, China has been testing out a new digital currency tied to its central bank since April. In the United States, maybe call it FedCoin in the future. Could it come and take over? The Fed can say, hey, we really like this blockchain technology. The FedCoin can use blockchain, which again is that digital ledger system, to monitor your transactions for taxes. Cryptocurrency is backed by nothing. Some say that the American dollar is also backed by nothing, but I think you can make the case that the dollar is backed by the world's strongest military with things like jets and missiles and aircraft carriers. Well, can Bitcoin or Ethereum stand up to that? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. Cryptocurrency is antagonistic to national governments. Oppositely, the government supports private ownership of real estate with all kinds of tax advantages. Now, like gold, Bitcoin is mined into existence. At least some effort is expended to produce gold. In Bitcoin, then, there isn't any effort expended to produce dollars, which are essentially conjured out of thin air. Now, some people tout Bitcoin's limited supply, its scarcity. There will only be 21 million in existence. That's written into the code. So, in summary here, with cryptocurrency like Bitcoin, yeah, it should see growing acceptance, but with that growing acceptance, the threat increases that it will be shut down by powerful central governments. I think it is worth paying a little attention to. It is possible that if you buy and sell at the right time, yeah, you could make money from crypto. Now, if you think that owning crypto is more speculation than it is investing and you want to allot, say, 5% or whatever into speculation, well, then maybe you rationalize that it's okay and that it is money that you can afford to lose. The investing majority part of your portfolio, real estate, is in something that has stable value, an income stream, and tax benefits. We're going to discuss one of the most important questions in real estate investing next. Yes, back to the content that you're more used to hearing from me. Hey, do you have any questions or comments about the show? Reach out at getricheducation.com/contact. That's where you can leave either a written message or a voicemail there at getricheducation.com/contact. I am so very grateful for your listenership. More straight ahead, I'm Keith Weinhold. You're listening to Get Rich Education. Congress just made it possible to get up to $100,000 out of your current 401k or TSP to invest in real estate, gold, or even your own business. That's even if you're still working, and avoid the IRA UBIT tax. The thing is, you can get your money tax and penalty free for a limited time. The EQRP is your secret weapon. With the CARES Act expiring soon, the EQRP company helps you unleash your retirement funds now. Learn more and text message EQRP in all capital letters to 72,000. Most rental property investors choose either positive cash flow or home price appreciation, but one real estate market can provide both. Jacksonville, Florida, with 9% lower home prices than the national median, 1% higher gross rents, and Jacksonville has appreciated 34% more than other comparable cash flow markets since 1991. Get positive cash flow today and appreciation for tomorrow. To invest for cash flow and growth in Jacksonville, go to cashflowandgrowth.com.
This is author Kristen Tate. Listen to Get Rich Education with Keith Weinhold and don't quit your daydream.
Welcome back to Get Rich Education. What's the biggest reason that people don't invest in real estate? I would say primarily is that they simply don't know about it, especially the approachability of turnkey real estate investing. What's the second biggest reason that people don't invest in real estate? That could very well be because people think that you have got to be a house flipper or a landlord. Well, you don't have to be those things at all. I'm neither of those things. Real estate investing has the worst marketing and the best product. Carefully bought real estate has the best risk-adjusted return in the world. One downside of investing in real estate with long-term rentals is that you want to use 3-year money or longer. Do it and invest in it like you don't expect to get any money back in 3 years, although you probably will through cash flow. If you put a down payment and closing costs into real estate, selling it in under 3 years, that is not going to work out. Or you shouldn't count on that working out because the transaction costs are substantial enough getting in and getting out that you want to be sure that you don't invest your bottom dollar in real estate. And in fact, your mortgage lender makes sure that you don't because you have to show them reserves before you qualify for a loan. Now, with the appreciation that we've seen recently, appreciation was the theme of our show last week, it is quite possible that you'll be able to hold for less than 3 years and sell and still make a small profit, but that's not typical. That should not be counted on. Now, with the way home prices are appreciating, especially single-family rental homes, by the time that we're well into next year, you know what? Understand that property prices are positioned to go substantially higher. However, rents only a little higher. So therefore, buying property next year probably means that you're going to be buying at a lower rent to value ratio. And then who knows where mortgage interest rates are going to be. One common question from someone that's interested in real estate investing is, now, should I find and renovate a property and then place the tenants myself, or should I buy a turnkey property where all of those things are already done for me? Because you're going to pay more for a turnkey, ready to go, rehabbed property than a distressed one, obviously. If you are extremely handy and you also have a phenomenal team of people who can handle property repairs for you, and you live in an investor advantage market, and you just want to be more involved in the process than totally hands off, well then turnkeys are not for you. It could then make more sense that you go get cheaper, beat up houses and do the work yourself. However, you know what? If you're in that position, then maybe you should be a turnkey real estate provider to other investors yourself. Hey, you'd have all the ingredients in order to be one. If you were nodding your head to all of those things, then actually maybe you are a property provider. So what does a turnkey provider do? Well, first, they buy properties in bulk. That means they don't go out and buy one house. They buy 300 of them, and anything bought in bulk tends to be priced lower per unit, so you can get a house for much cheaper when you don't just buy one, but you buy 299 more of them around the same time. Turnkey providers also shop at the auctions, just like some individuals do. When buying discounted properties is your full-time job, like it is theirs, they tend to have a lot of connections in that field. Turnkey providers know people who know people who know people, and therefore they can snag good deals that no one else ever knew about because those properties never came on to a public market. Now, once the provider has a property, the extent of the rehab necessary to make the property functional or nice is going to vary. It could vary from only needing cosmetic work to having to be completely gutted and redone. And anything just over cosmetic work, that stuff is going to require professionals. If the work is merely cosmetic, you probably could do it yourself. No biggie there. For bigger jobs, you need to hire a general contractor so that multiple jobs can get done. What the turnkey people do is they have crews who work only on the properties bought by that provider. all of the work is then done in-house. Because see, turnkey people buy enough properties such that they can keep their contractors busy and always working on something, and that means that contractors don't run off and go work for somebody else. Contractors are notorious for not being able to keep their doggone schedule. There are really three variables if you are taking on the ambitious job of managing contractors yourself. Number one is the quality good. Number two, are the contractors within budget? And number three, are they sticking to their timeline? Those three things, quality, budget, and timeline. And it's that third one where they're often lackluster. More often than not, contractors deliver excuses rather than on time, on budget work. And then there are permits and inspections and waiting for the inspector to come out and re-inspections and more permits. Permits and housing inspectors can present a seemingly endless rabbit hole for rehabbers, all tangled with red tape. After the long rehab process, if you're doing this all yourself, then you would need to advertise for tenants, screen them, which might include credit checks, reference checks, background and criminal checks, and verifying their employee income. You provide all of the legal documents for the tenants to sign as well, and then you need to make sure that you are in compliance with all of the state or local landlord-tenant rules, and then you collect the rent each month, respond to repair calls as necessary, handle the turnover of a tenant move-out, and then, God forbid, an eviction if that has to occur at any point, and then you need to handle the legal process for that. That's if you're doing it all yourself. What the turnkey people do, well, they have property management, so the property manager goes and does all of that stuff for you, and property managers usually charge you, the investor, 8 to 10% of the monthly rent amount. That's their ongoing fee. So for a house collecting $1,200 in monthly rent, you're looking at maybe $100 in a monthly management fee. And if you have a preferred property manager, you can use them on your turnkey property, or you can use the turnkey provider's property manager, and there's no extra fee for using the turnkey provider's manager over your own. Now, one con of turnkey real estate investing, or really just something that you need to look out for and be aware of, is suspicious pre-placed tenants that are already inside a property that you consider buying. Now, if you screened your tenants yourself, well, you're probably going to do a thorough job of screening them. At least you should if you know what's good for your returns. You steer clear of bad tenants because you know those tenants will directly impact your profits as a landlord. But look, unscrupulous turnkey sellers that don't have a long track record know that they won't have to manage their tenants for very long. So is that provider just putting any tenant in it and then not managing it for you? In fact, it is in their best interest to place a tenant willing to pay the highest possible rent that has a poor credit history rather than reliable, clean, long-term tenants. So that means that their interests and yours do not align when it comes to tenant screening and placement. That is all unless the turnkey property provider is also going to be managing your tenant for you. As a turnkey rental buyer, you need to double check some alleged facts. One thing you could do is screen the existing tenant all over again. You could demand copies of their rental application and all the tenant screening reports, and contacting employers and prior landlords on your own to make sure that they meet your rigorous standards. Also, you could do your own independent review of the property's market rent. Is the current tenant paying a reasonable market rate, or does it seem a little high given your property's location and condition and size? I once knew a turnkey seller who just threw the highest bidding tenant into his properties. That way he could sell them to the highest price to buyers. He barely screened them at all. He knew he wasn't going to have to manage them. You got to beware of those disreputable sellers. If they're selling you a rehabbed, tenanted property, but they aren't going to manage your tenant, well, then they don't have motivation to put any tenant in there other than the highest bidder. So we're talking about the pros and cons of all done for you turnkey real estate investing versus doing it yourself. If you truly know specifically what you're doing, yeah, you could do it all yourself. The property acquisition, the rehab, the tenant placement, and then the ongoing long-term management. But I know so many people that have tried to do it themselves because they saw what a turnkey provider bought a property for at a foreclosure auction at a low price, and then how much they marked it up. So then that motivated some people to just go try it all themselves, and those do-it-yourselfers regret it nearly every time. I buy turnkey because I really feel like I get bang for my buck. Plus, I'm not a good handyman either. But when we talk about the bang that you get for your buck, to find the distressed property in the first place, the foreclosure and the short sale process can be really uncertain and take a really long time. Auctions are really competitive if you do not know what you're doing, if you're at all inexperienced, or you don't have a significant lump of cash in your back pocket. Well, then the big boys, who are often the turnkey providers, they're going to trample you if you don't know what you're doing. Finding motivated sellers, that can be done in a bunch of ways, but it's pretty time consuming. All these options just scream a lot of work and a lot of time. Most often, the properties sold by turnkey providers, they have a lower initial baseline price than anything you can find on your own, and then you didn't have to do any of the work either. And then when it comes to the rehabbing, anything done in mass is going to be less expensive. Not just with finding good deals on properties, but with the rehabs as well. The turnkey providers, they use a standard paint, carpet, flooring, trim, and roofing shingles. Since they have so many houses that need these materials, they buy those materials at quantity, and then they get discount wholesale prices. And you as an individual, you just can't get those prices on materials unless you have a cousin that works at Lowe's or Home Depot warehouse, maybe. So the material costs required to rehab and maintain a property are cheaper for the turnkey people than they're ever going to be for you by yourself. Another way that doing things at scale is more efficient is that the turnkey providers, they live to fix these houses up. It's all they do. And since they do so many of them, the crews are able to get the rehabs done way faster than even most general contractors. That saves on major labor costs. One of my favorite turnkey providers in Tennessee has a rehab team that averages only 6 days for a complete rehab. I've never met any one person that can do it that fast. And yes, they are high quality rehabs. Then after the rehab, the turnkey provider or their property manager places the tenant, and then they manage all the ongoing tenant relations. And that is tough work. I self-managed for 5.5 years when I started out, and I wish that I had not done it for that long. You can find the turnkey providers that I deal with at greturnkey.com. This whole thing about how you've got to live in close proximity to your rental property, that is just a really old-fashioned notion. I mean, if you own property on the other side of your same city, how often would you really even go there anyway, let alone go inside of the property? So this whole thing about, I can't see my property this afternoon if I wanted to, well, you can't see your stocks either. You cannot get in the boardroom of the big decision makers in your stocks. I help people invest in real estate nationwide and beyond the nation sometimes too. Most properties that I own, which are in other states, I've never seen in person. So you can truly run your real estate empire from anywhere on the planet. Strategically, what you probably want to do is find 3 to 5 markets to buy in. See, if you buy in fewer than 3 geographic markets, you risk being under-diversified. If you buy in more than 5 markets, well, 6 or more property managers might just give you more parties than you want to asset manage. You are the asset manager over your property managers in these different markets. But in those 3 to 5 markets that you select, hey, this is really fun. You could diversify by buying in a smaller metro like Dayton, Ohio, and then a big metro like Houston. That way you're also in a northern market and a southern market. Maybe you want to buy in a market where you've got government subsidized Section 8s to diversify that way. There are other ways to diversify. Maybe you want to buy in a distribution hub like Memphis and offset that with a really diverse high growth market in Florida. You can diversify by buying some fourplexes and some single family homes. So there are so many ways to diversify rather than just strict geographic location. And then once you've identified your 3 to 5 markets, really drill down and do your buying in those markets. Over time, the numbers soon might not make sense in a few markets. For example, Denver is one of those. 15 years ago, Denver made some sense as a cash flow market, and then it really didn't because gradually home prices ran up faster than the rents. That market got too expensive. So then you would stop buying there. Your price was already locked in when you bought, say in Denver, and now you can either hold or refinance what you've got. There at GRE Turnkey, about the highest priced properties you'll find are $750,000 new construction fourplexes in the Intramountain West. So you might get in for as much as $200 to $250K on those because that's a 25% down payment plus closing costs. But on rental single-family homes, it only takes a 20% down payment. Now, on new construction in Florida, say a $200,000 purchase price, it only might take $45K to get started, $50K, something like that, all the way down to a provider like Mid-South Homebuyers in Memphis and Little Rock, who is one of the nation's longest-running turnkey providers with a great reputation. Well, they have low-cost rehabbed homes that cost $80K. So there you can get started for less than $20K, sometimes in Memphis, with a reputable turnkey company. For example, right here, I'm looking at a property at 2529 Ramses Avenue in Memphis, Tennessee. The zip code is 38127. It rents for $825, and the purchase price is $87,500. It has 3 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms on 1,250 square feet. All upgraded, really quite attractive looking with a big backyard and a lot of the amenities that families really look for these days. That property is through Mid-South Homebuyers, again, the Memphis and Little Rock provider listed there at GRE Turnkey. So the main 8 steps to get started, which appear there at the top of the page for you at greturnkey.com, are number 1, get the provider report on the page and get your mortgage pre-approval. Then view the available properties, and inventory remains low. In fact, foreclosure moratoria limit the inventory that turnkey providers and most anyone can get right now. But what you do next then is make an offer after you've identified that property. And once your offer is accepted, please, please, please get a third-party independent inspection to be sure that property's been rehabbed to a good standard and is in good working condition. Next, your property appraisal takes place. An appraisal is where your mortgage lender basically checks the quality of their collateral. That's what an appraisal is. That's why they do it. And that's the property that you are borrowing against. Next, you sign a management agreement with your property manager. Then you'll have the property closing, and there you go. You're the owner. You collect the rent, or the manager actually collects the rent and sends it to you. Some people wait for blue sky and everything to be perfect before they begin, and that never happens. You can get started with some of the nation's elite turnkey providers at greturnkey.com. Until next week, I'm your host, Keith Weinhold. Don't quit your daydream.
Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Get Rich Education, LLC exclusively.
The preceding program was brought to you by Your Home for Wealth Building. GetRichEducation.com.